and Keith. So for all the questions that we ask, we'll just go in that order so you know what we're doing. We're not going to jump around. And so we'll ask the candidates give that little introduction. We sent you the 3 questions that we will work through. We'll open it up to some Q&A after that. And then we'll give you a final, once we don't have any more questions, we will provide that 1-minute wrap up. So maybe a 1-minute statement at the end. So with that, Alyssa is allowing people in, and we'll get started here in just a couple of minutes. Okay, I think we are going to get started. I'd like to welcome you to our Meet the Candidate Forum for NACAA officers. My name is Jerry Clark. I'm the North Central Region Director for NACAA. And I'd like to thank you for taking time today to meet the candidates. Our forum today will be a few questions. We will also take questions. We have a couple of questions that are we've received from the board and from others that we've requested some questions from. We also have the chat box open, and at the end, we can answer any questions through audio as well. So if you have a question that you want to ask the candidates, we encourage that either through the chat box or at the end, we will open up that for Q&A. Joining me today as your co-hosts will be Mike Reeves from Southern Region, as well as Stuart Gaucher. We also have David Hanley from the Northeast Region, and Scott Jensen, I believe, may be joining us by phone from the West. And so we appreciate you taking time to come in today and join us to meet the candidates. So our format today, candidates will provide a brief introduction of themselves. We've asked them to kind of talk about why they are interested in the position and what they can bring to NACAA during their tenure in that position. We also will have those 3 questions that we received. They will be asked by the regional directors, open it up for Q&A, and then we'll have a final 1-minute wrap up. The candidates can give a 1-minute wrap up as they, once we're done with questions. We'll have some final reminders of a couple NACAA things that we'd like to have the membership do, or you can take back to your states as we finish up today, and wrap that up with some announcements. So helping me today pull this off is Lissa Seefeld. She's my counterpart and colleague to the south of me as my technical assistant today. So I really appreciate Lissa pitching in today. So with that, we'll just get started. I'm going to share a couple introductory things here quickly, and then we can get started with the program. So usually during a annual meeting, we have this hospitality rooms that many of the candidates will put together for us to have some hospitality, visit with the candidates, ask questions, those kind of things. So we kind of consider today that hospitality room that we've had in the past if you've been to annual meetings. And so we will be hearing from the candidates for Secretary, Connie Strunk from South Dakota, for Vice President, Phil Durst from Michigan, and Matt Herring from Missouri. And our treasurer candidate is Keith Perkins from Arkansas. Again, our regional directors are your hosts today. So if you have any questions about the future candidates or what some of that is, we will go through that shortly, but your regional director is always there to help you with that. So part of the Meet the Candidate, to be a candidate for NACAA, there is policy, and that is under the members only tab. So if you go to the website, the NACAA website, you will see the members only tab. Click there and there's a policy and bylaws section. And under section 5.1, that's where the requirements are to be a candidate. And so that paperwork needs to be into the NACAA secretary a minimum of 30 days before the annual meeting. And now with our annual meeting being September 28th, we're looking at August 28th as that final date. So if you're interested or know of anyone that's interested in being a candidate, paperwork still, there's still time to be a candidate, needs to be in by a minimum of August 28th. And that would go to Connie Strunk, who's currently our NACAA secretary. That paperwork is usually an application, but you also do need to get a letter of support from your administrator, dean, director, however your extension system is organized. And then, so there will be another opportunity. We won't do something in this format, but those candidates that do have their paperwork in by August 28th, that there is a nominating committee. And I believe they consist of some of the officers as well as a couple of representatives from each region. And so regional directors will be asking a couple of people from their region, a couple of members from their region to be part of the nominating committee. And then they are the ones that officially go through the process of declaring that the candidates meet the qualifications. So I just wanted to open with that if anyone's out there knows of anyone that is still interested in being a candidate, there is time. Just that follow those rules that are in the NACAA policy. So I'm going to stop sharing that, and we will get started with our forum. And so with that, we will start with the candidates' introductions. And again, our format will start with Phil. We will move to Matt, Connie, and then Keith. And so we'll keep that format as far as who's going to speak next. But for that, I will turn it over to Phil to start off with his introduction. So welcome, Phil.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining us today. I'm really glad to be with you, and I'm pleased to be a candidate for NACAA Vice President. NACAA has been important in my career growth through more than 30 years in extension. Through this association, my understanding has been enlarged as I've learned from a diversity of colleagues. My perspectives have been broadened, challenged, changed. Doors of opportunity have opened, and I've made friends in many states. I'm a county-based extension educator working locally and statewide. I provide education and consulting in the areas of management of dairy cattle and beef cattle health and employee management that impact farms all over Michigan. And by learning and developing expertise, I've been invited to teach and consult in Armenia, Ukraine, China, and most recently in Israel. NACAA scholarship funds have enabled me to go on 2 of these trips abroad. Our association helps to lift our view up and stretch it over the hills so that we gain new perspective, see new possibilities, and experience new vistas, positioning us for even greater impact with the clientele that we serve, whether they are in a dusty crossroads town or in a more urban setting. Impact is what sets us apart. To increase our impact, we need to learn from each other, share ideas and get feedback, encourage one another, and challenge one another. That comes from a stronger association. I believe that NACAA can be stronger by an extension in 3 primary areas: extension of professional development opportunities, extension of opportunities for member service, and extension to more in our profession. The first one, extension of professional development opportunities. This year's AMPIC is a watershed moment for our association. Every presentation will be recorded and can be the basis for a library of presentations that members can access anytime. I would like to see that be the case each year, even when we're meeting in person, that we have a library of presentations that anybody can access. I also believe that NACA can be the network that can link members in any state with in-service opportunities in other states. Secondly, extension of opportunities for member service. Serving our fellow members is a wonderful opportunity, yet some may need encouragement to step up and be considered for leadership positions. I wonder if we might create board internships or have members shadow an officer to learn more about the role. And I believe that we need to recruit minority members to these opportunities so that our leadership reflects our membership and so that we gain the wealth of diversity in our association. Number three, extension to more in our profession. NACA needs to involve more those who work in extension, not just getting their membership fees, but truly involving them, whether it's new agents or educators, whether it's campus specialists, any that are involved in extension at the 1862, the 1890, the 1994 land grants, as well as in the islands of Puerto Rico and Guam, everywhere where extension serves clientele. I look forward to working with the NACA board and committee chairs to evaluate changes that can create greater benefits to our members. Having served through the offices of president in 2 states, Pennsylvania and Michigan, having participated fully in 30 consecutive AMPICs, having chaired the 2007 AMPIC in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and having served as the Animal Science Regional Vice Chair in 2002 and 2003, I feel that I bring experience to go with vitality, creativity, and passion. Let's work together for a stronger future, because together we can accomplish so much more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Appreciate that. Let's move on to Matt Herring from Missouri for his opening introduction.
Jerry, thank you. And thank you to all who joined us today. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you about my interest in being a candidate for Vice President of the National Association of County Agricultural Agents. I've been with MU Extension, and I've got the columns at MU behind me here. It's my alma mater. I've been with Extension in Missouri for 28 years and been a part of the association for that entire time. I serve as a field specialist in agronomy in East Central Missouri, serving 6 counties, addressing programmatic needs and related to agronomy, field crops, soils, soil fertility, natural resources. I work with a fairly active master gardener group, and we also have a master naturalist organization that we work with. And so those volunteers help to expand the reach of MU Extension in these counties that I serve. I've served as a county program director in 3 different counties at different times on an interim basis. Also a county engagement specialist. That's kind of our new model for that county-based person that provides administrative oversight to the county. I served almost 2 years as an interim regional director in Missouri, covering 17 counties in the east central part of Missouri, thus expanding my service to MU there in that administrative role. I had the good fortune of being elected NACA secretary in 2014 and served in that role for 3 years. And that deepened my understanding of NACAA, what it can bring to the members, and the impact that we can have then on the people that we serve. I appreciate that opportunity. I've been a member of NACA, of course, for 28 years. I've attended 14 AMPICs. My wife Brenda and I just celebrated 28 years of marriage this past Saturday. We have 2 adult children. Ellen is a student working on her master's at the University of Arkansas, and our son Luke just graduated from MU and is developing a cattle business with us here. I appreciate the chance to be a candidate for NACA. I look back at the vision statement for NACAA, and I think it's important to recognize that NACA has been in existence for over 100 years. We have a very strong foundation that has been built, and we continue to build upon that foundation. I think it's important to recognize the mission statement that reads that we further the professional improvement of its members. We communicate and cooperate among all extension educators. We provide for enhancement of the image of extension. and provide for the development of personal growth opportunities for extension professionals. And I think we do that, but I think we need to continue to build on that. As Phil mentioned, this pandemic has forced us to change direction with our handpick this year. And I think maybe it's also helped us as professionals in each of our own roles to reevaluate how we approach things. But maybe it's a growth opportunity for us individually, but also as an association to think how we can do things differently as we move forward to, again, meet the needs of our membership. My vision for NACA is that we continue to build on the culture of NACA that has been built over time, that we look for ways to use technology to allow members to, first of all, to help appreciate the new technology in agriculture, but also to use technology in our everyday work. I think it's important that we help our membership to adapt these new practices while maintaining a respect and a value of that relationship building that occurs and provides strength for our membership. I appreciate the chance to be a candidate today, and I welcome the opportunities that serving as a vice president will bring.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Appreciate your opening statements. Next, we'll move on to Connie Strunk for secretary. Connie is from South Dakota.
Thanks, Jerry. As Jerry said, I'm Connie Strunk. I'm from South Dakota, and I'm currently serving as your NACAA secretary, and I'm running for re-election. I am a born and raised Midwest girl, born in Minnesota, on a farm where I, upon graduating, went to SDSU, so South Dakota State University, and got my bachelor's degree in ag education and a master's degree in plant pathology. Fell in love, if you will, married my husband, where we are now raising our 6 kids as the first generation off the farm. So that's been some unique challenges, but also serving in this education role with an extension has allowed me to stay connected to agriculture and within the farming family that I have. And so that's just been a very unique opportunity. Over the course of my time with NACAA, I attended my first national meeting in 2009 in Portland. And from there I was hooked because I met a cohort of people that represented the same values and ideals that I had for agriculture, and then just working and interacting with one another. A big part of, what I do is teamwork. And so, that's been pushed through like my programming at the home state. Most of what I do is being a part of a team. I'm not afraid to take the lead if need be and be in charge of that team. But I know that we get farther when we are part of a team. So it's a big driving factor of mine. With NACAA, I've explored a lot of different opportunities. I served as the teaching and educational technologies North Central vice chair for 4 years and served 2 years as the national chair. So I've done the groundwork, if you will. I was honored to be able to be a part of the board of directors as your North Central region director for vice director and then director, each serving the 2-year time span. It was a lot of getting out of the state, meeting people. I had the support of my husband by taking care of the kids and supporting my dreams, if you will, because a big part of what I am is I'm a dreamer. I'm a believer of the future, like to encourage people, encourage those relationships, but also encourage that change. We get, like I said, we get farther when we work together and not be afraid of looking at that future. And, just really like to have a lot of purpose. I don't want to make change just to make change, but I'm not afraid of really looking long range and making those changes as we see fit. This is our association for our active members. And I think part of, as we move forward, is we need to really take a hard look and really interact with our members as to what they see or what they drive for our future. But with that, I will wrap up and just say, I've been excited to be a part of this association, and I look forward to the things to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie, for those opening comments. Our final officer position is treasurer, and Keith Perkins from Arkansas is our candidate. So Keith.
Thanks for that introduction. My name's Keith Perkins from Arkansas, and I would like to tell you a little bit about my story. Of course, my story starts even before I was born. You see, I've been a product of agriculture even before I was born. The story goes is that my mom was picking cotton in a field, and she seen this man and thought he was really handsome. She had to pick cotton really fast to catch up with him. Well, she did, and fireworks flew for the next 54 years. I am number 4 of 5 of one of those fireworks shows. Growing up on a family farm, we raised rice, corn, soybeans, and cotton. We also had hogs, chickens, cows, and a few horses. In 1980, while we was growing up on that farm, there was an extreme drought in Arkansas. It changed the face of agriculture in Arkansas forever. We went from a lot of dryland crops to not total irrigation, but mainly irrigation in Arkansas. I received my ag business degree, and after receiving my ag business degree, I started to work in the aquaculture industry in Mississippi and worked there several years. After doing that, I decided I needed a little more education and went back and got my master's in business administration and started as a research specialist for the University of Arkansas and was working on vegetables and cotton. Was able to take an ag agent position in 1996 and have served in 3 counties. I'm currently a staff chair in Lone Oak County. We have a staff of 6, and this is a Delta County where we have rice, corn, soybeans, cotton, and then we also have cattle and horticulture. I attended my first national meeting when it was in Florida. It was a great opportunity for me. I was able to take my family and made some great family memories, but we also were able to attend the professional meeting and receive a lot of training at that particular meeting. It was also my first time to present at a national meeting, which gave me the opportunity to share my program ideals with others across the nation. One thing that has been exciting about all the national meetings I've met at least several new folks from across the nation and made some really nice friends and networked throughout these national meetings. At the state level, I've been the communications chair. I've been a voting delegate, secretary, vice president, president, past president. When the national meeting come to Arkansas, I was the tour chairman for all the tours on tour day. And that really was an eye-opening experience for me to help manage all those buses going out at different times and that kind of thing. It was really a interesting job and was one that was really rewarding. I've been the regional vice chair for the recognition and awards committee at the national level. I've been a treasurer for the ESP Association here in Arkansas. I've attended JSEP and PILD. One thing that's exciting for me this year is that we are having a virtual national meeting, which is exciting in a sense that every member in every state will be able to attend that meeting. I know that in the past for me and my colleagues that 2 of the things that have been a restraint and in order to receive the to go to the national meeting is cost and time. And both of those are limiting commodities for us. And with us having a virtual meeting, it will be a great opportunity for us to have every member across the nation attend this meeting. Again, my name is Keith Perkins from Arkansas, and that is all about me.
All right, thank you, Keith. Appreciate all those opening comments from the candidates. We'll move into the questions that we had sent the candidates earlier. And again, as a reminder to those that are participating today, you can throw questions in the chat box and or you can voice those questions at the end. So with our questions, I'm going to turn it over to Southern Region Director Mike Reeves for that first question. So Mike, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. First, I want to thank all the candidates for being able to offer their services and experience, and as a candidate for national office. And, I sure do appreciate that. I enjoyed listening to the talk about your experiences and your visions. And with the first question, you've all addressed it already a bit, and it's what we're doing now, basically in the current working environment. Whether it's home office, doing a Zoom meeting, but not doing much face-to-face interaction. How can NACAA assist its members in connecting them to each other and enhancing program delivery?
So Phil, you can start off, and then again, we will move through Matt, Connie, and Keith.
Well, thanks, Mike. It's an excellent question. And it's one I think that we're going to keep asking ourselves, not just this year, but as we go forward. How can we as an association be more relevant to a changing world? You know, I don't have all the answers, but one of the things that stuck out to me, I was talking with Carol Hinton from Kentucky, and she was telling me that their beef specialists have been doing regular beef in-service Zooms for their agents because they had the opportunity, had the time. And my first thought was, wow, could I listen in? Could I benefit from that as well? And then I expanded it. Could beef agents or those who work with beef cattle across the country listen in? Because there's so much information that can be shared across states. If states wanted to invite others, then maybe NACA can be the network that invitation goes out through so that we can access in-services that are done in state. And then, you know, on the programming side of things, you know, we have a great committee, the Teaching and Education Technologies Committee, that's been in place for years. And that committee every year puts on terrific seminars at the AMPIC. And I want to recognize them for the work that they've done, helping members to understand how to make better use of technology. And frankly, I need to learn how to make better use of technology. I need to access what they've done. Again, I mentioned this library of presentations that we can have on our website from the national meeting. I think that more of that is just going to be of help to us to be able to learn when and how we're able to learn, and that is by taking advantage of those in our free time and our time when we're not busy with other things, that we can take advantage of those. That's not a complete answer, but there's creative people out there that can even help us to think of more ways to use technology and how our association can be at the forefront of helping agents to use that to meet clientele needs.
Thank you, Phil. We'll move on to Matt.
NACAA has been around for over 100 years, and I checked with Scott Hallbaker this morning about membership because I thought it was about 3,000, and he had confirmed that we have over 3,000 members, and it's a big association. With that said, we obviously are using a lot of technology, have been, and the pandemic has only encouraged us to use technology more. But as I thought about how to answer this question, it came back to me that it's still about building relationships. And we build relationships within our association. We build relationships with the people that we work with. And I don't think that we can lose sight of the importance of building relationships, whether it's with the people that we work with or within our association. So that still is key, that we find ways to build relationships. And I think that is arguably needs to be the foundation of how we figure out how to better serve our members going forward. As I thought about this question, I thought, well, we have a journal, we have a magazine, we use Twitter, we use Facebook, and there's probably other things I'm not even aware of that we do use as an association. So we've made great strides in providing forums and ways for our members to communicate, to to get published, etc. Communication is always important. I think we can never over communicate. I've been impressed by what Gene McAvoy has done as president this year in keeping us updated. But what can we do to continue that and continue to build on the level of communication that we have, so members feel connected, feel like they are in the know, feel like they are truly a part of the association, not just someone who's paying membership dues. I've wondered about could we build teams? In addition to the committee structure that we have, are there ways of building teams within the association that would provide a way to build relationships, but also to help members feel more connected to the association and feel like they're playing an important role for the association? Another thing I thought about as I thought about how to answer this question is, do we do a good job of getting feedback from our members? I think we do that at the close of the MPIC each year, but do we ever take time to and maybe we do, and I don't know this, but do we look for ways to get feedback from the entire membership about how are we doing, and are there ways of doing it better? There's still lots of things that could be done, but those are just a few things that occurred to me as I thought about how to answer this question.
Thank you, Matt. We'll move on to Connie.
In thinking of this question, one of the big things that I kind of go back to is we need to look at our association as a year-round opportunity versus just the focus on AMPIC. So we already have the committee structure that's in play. I'd like to see the committees, charged with, yes, creating those specialties, creating those webinars, but NACAA, we could hold a monthly webinar. We could look at, focusing on first timers or kind of going through what are some of the stressful situations. We could look at, content driven, but again, that kind of boils back to some of those committee structures already in play. So I would really like to see that. But also, we already have some things that are just not as utilized within our association. On our NACA website, every one of us could go in and assign our own specialties and areas of interest, if you will. With that, we'd be able to create lists or, content area. I'd like to see like a coffee hour, if you will, if we just log in and get together and visit, whether it's ag, not ag, weather, not weather, we just talk and kind of get to know one another. Again, that team building and really getting that team building would be a huge thing. And then the other would be, one of the other things that the regional directors have started and have kind of pushed is that the regional director newsletter, kind of trying to put the key issues and kind of summarizing down what the board has or issues that are coming up, but also trying to put their local spin on it, just that communication. It doesn't matter what we do, we'd really struggle with that communication overall as our association. So really wanting to encourage that communication and encourage really looking at what we have within our website.
Okay. Thank you, Connie. And to wrap up this question, we will move on to Keith.
This question about what we can do with the current working environment to increase our membership in how to portray this out is a very difficult question. One of the things that we're doing, of course, is this virtual meeting today that we're having. Our national meeting is going to be virtual. And I mentioned earlier that cost and time are two things that we have as commodities that we have limited amounts of. And in the future, of course, I'd love the in-person meetings, but like I said earlier, I appreciate the opportunity this year that every member will be able to attend without having the cost being a factor for them. And we as an association can have more opportunities like this in the future for our members. One of the things that we should look at is always having a virtual component of our national meeting for our members and sometimes our family that are not able to attend the national meetings. I know that, for example, when I received the DSA award, if that would have been live streamed, my parents would have loved to have been able to see that, and just other membership things that we do among our association that could be projected out to not only our members, but their family members also.
All right. Thank you, Keith. With that, we'll move on to Stuart Gaucher. He's the Southern Director from Louisiana. And Stuart will take care of the second question.
Thank you, Jerry. When I chose this question to ask, I thought that it was a very timely question. I think one of the candidates, even in his introduction, kind of touched on the subject of diversity. And I know definitely with our university right now, there's been a lot of discussion about how we're going to increase diversity within our ranks at our Ag Center. And I think that it's being looked at, in a lot of different places. So with that, the question is, given the changing demographics of our association, what steps do you think the association must take to support the increasing diversity of our membership?
Okay. Phil, would you like to start us off again?
Sure. That's a great question, Stuart. I appreciate it. And I fully agree that our leadership has to reflect the membership, and our association can only gain from the wealth of diversity. And that's no more apparent than it is now. We really need to involve everybody. We're better when we have a broad range of perspective, a broad range of experience, a broad range of backgrounds, a broad range of every descriptor that we can think of. I mentioned in my opening statement about the possibility of board internships or shadowing board members. If we're going to get people involved in the board, or if we're going to get people involved in committee chair positions, then I think it's going to be helpful to them if we can actually bring them in, maybe in an internship or shadowing way, so that they have the opportunity to learn. And so I would commit to that if I'm elected, to work with those and mentor those who want to learn more about the role of vice president. I'm sure there's other ways that we can, as an association, reach out. We talked about the fact that we need to involve members throughout the country, or extension professionals throughout the country, and we need to get them involved. And that's going to take place, primarily at the state level, but also at our regional level. But there's must be ways that we as a national board, and we as the national committee can reach out to draw people in. I don't have all the answers, but I don't need to. This association is made up of talented, smart, creative people. Together, we're stronger. What I simply need to be, if I'm elected, is accessible, humble, and discerning. Accessible so that any member can reach out to me anytime with ideas, questions, concerns. Humble to accept the ideas that are offered, and discerning to evaluate them based on our goals. And I commit to those things. Together, we can build this association stronger. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Matt, your response?
As we mold and shape the culture of NACA, and a lot of this is about culture. I think we have to be cognizant of inclusion, diversity, and equity as we make our decisions and as we move forward. Diversity can only help our association be stronger. I think we have to find ways to encourage all members to think about ways that they can become more active in our association, and that includes things like presenting at meetings, becoming involved in committees, and eventually potentially moving into leadership positions. But that needs to start with all members thinking about how do we get new members who reflect the association to become involved. And oftentimes it involves encouraging maybe more senior members, encouraging those new members to get involved. And I'm a product of that. There's 2 members on today that were involved in encouraging me to think about running for secretary in 2014. Had they not done that, I probably wouldn't have. But again, diversity, back to diversity, diversity is so critical for our association to become stronger, and it is critical, arguably, for our association to move forward and embrace the 21st century. I also want to reference a work that was done by Henry Durow when I was first on the board, and we're wrapping up some work related to diversity. And I'd probably like for the association to revisit that work and see if we can build upon that. So that would be something else that I would try to do if I was elected.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Connie, your response?
And kind of echoing Matt here, really focusing on the diversity, the inclusion, the accessibility, and the equity, within our association. I really think that we need to take a hard look within our association. So that is going to mean surveying whether we would hire an outside consultant or somebody that's not us to go in and survey the membership, survey those that are members, those that are the life members, survey those that may have dropped but might still fulfill or fill out that survey just about our association. And so really wanting to look at that, to kind of take a huge look at that. But the biggest thing within our association that I think we really need to look at, and it will kind of stem a little bit into the other question, is that we need to stop some of the barriers, stop some of the, we say we want to have more diversity, we want to include more people, we want you to be active in committees. You can't take on any of those roles until you have been to X number of AMPICs. And, so it's really kind of stopping, saying, we want those that have had years of service and maybe are stuck in the rut or are unwilling to look at change or look at future or look at the different ways going forward. So we really need to, be open and, committed to doing that. And again, surveying and checking through some things might reveal some stuff that we don't want to hear. But if we want to stay relevant and if we want to stay in association, we're going to have to, put in the time, put in the dollars to do that.
Okay, thank you, Connie. And we'll wrap this question up with Keith again.
Okay. Diversity, when I think about this, I think about even the diversity in agriculture. This past year when the meeting was in Indiana, I actually went to Indiana through Winnipeg, Canada. And on the way up there, I was in North Dakota and was looking at sugar beet harvest. And when we went to cross the border into Canada, we crossed at a remote section of the border, and the Border Patrol agent was like, "Why are you crossing here?" And I was like, because I wanted to see sugar beet harvest. He's like, "I've never heard that answer before." But it was one of those things that we are very diverse. If we think about the agriculture in this, even here in my county, but if we look across the United States, we're very diverse in our agriculture, and we're very diverse in the individuals that work in agriculture. And one thing that we always have to do is be looking at what benefits we can provide our membership and how we can reach each diverse person throughout the country, regardless of the agriculture they're involved in, regardless of what their role they're serving. And we want to make sure that everyone has equal opportunities to receive the training and education that they would like to receive from our association. And we need to look at how to include those individuals at both the state level and national level.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Again, appreciate all the candidates reflecting on that question. We'll move on to our last question that we had sent the candidates. Looks like we're getting a couple in the chat box as we're moving along here. But our final question that we've asked the candidates to answer will be asked by Northeast Regional Director David Hanley. So I believe David's on, and go ahead, David.
Thank you, Jerry. We have covered some of this in the previous two questions, but I think it bears some review as well and a little bit more focus. And that final question then is, the future of NACAA relies on involvement of new members. What could you do in a national leadership role to increase the involvement of new members?
Phil, appreciate you if you'd lead us off again.
All right, thank you. David, thanks for the question. We definitely need younger extension educators and agents to become involved. You know, we have a new member luncheon at the AMPIC, but that only reaches those new members who attend. Maybe we can reach out to new members in states better. Maybe there's a way that we can do that nationally. Obviously, the state associations are critical in the first step of that, but how could our association help? I think that there's ways that we need to look to do that. Prior to being asked to run for vice president, I committed to write a series of articles for the County Agent magazine that I called Perspectives of Experience. I wanted to share with younger members some things that I have learned in my career. So let me share with you a response I received. And this is, quote, "Just wanted to thank you for the excellent piece you contributed to the County Agent magazine this month. I've been an extension agent for 3 years now, and I love this job. Your piece gave me further encouragement that what I am doing here is important, that the more I know, the better I can be, and that it's okay to have papers all over your desk. Thanks for the inspiration." Just that little bit of sharing with the younger agent through an article was helpful to him. But we need to step alongside of people. We need to go alongside of people and put our arm around them figuratively and say, I want you to get more involved. I want you to take some leadership because you've got skills. So as we do that, whether it's in the states, whether it's nationally, we're going to keep young members involved and we're going to encourage them. That's what we need to do. Encourage them, recognize their abilities, recognize their strengths, and work with them. And they'll learn. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Phil. We'll move on to Matt.
NACA has a lot to offer our membership, but I think oftentimes, and I kind of alluded to this in the previous question, that oftentimes I think our younger members are not aware of everything that NACA has to offer. And I'm a prime example. I will admit, I started with extension in 1991. The first AMPIC that I attended was in 2001 in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I only attended because I was receiving the AA. And I didn't attend another one until I think it was 2006 in Cincinnati. I've attended almost every one since then other than South Carolina. I tell that story as an example of someone who did not get involved early. What I think can make a big difference, though, and I've seen it happen many times, is that when a young extension specialist agent has someone who serves as a mentor that encourages them to get involved, encourages them to attend that first meeting, that's oftentimes all it takes. What can I do? I can't be a mentor to every new person out there, but maybe what I can do as part of the board is to encourage that the importance or the value of that more senior extension person encouraging that new member to go ahead and go to the meetings, to put together a poster, to put together a presentation, to apply for awards, and help them understand and appreciate the value, the impact, and the opportunities that NACA has to offer. So that would be my first step. And I think also maybe, and also emphasizing all that NACA has to offer, the opportunities for getting articles published in the journal, for opportunities for presenting posters or for oral presentations at the meetings. And quite frankly, in many states, these are important for promotion, and what better way to do that than through NACA. So those are some options I would have to offer.
Thank you, Matt. Connie?
In working with the new members, would really like to see, a national mentoring type program, more than just what was established and started for the first timers for the how to work in AMPIC, wanting to see, throughout the year, touch base, contact, really working with those members just to include them, keep them not only in our association, but within extension. We lose good people all the time to industry and other jobs. you know, a lot of us have made careers out of here because, you know, it's our passion, it's our interest, it's something that we love, but we really need to, you know, continually encourage one another. So I would really like to see that, and then, you know, just serving as a role model. And again, you know, I mentioned that within our association for new members, you know, we say we want you to be in committees, we want you to be in leadership roles. Well, it's going to take you 5 to 10 or more years before some people are able to do that with what we have set up in play for our association. Yes, I understand that we want people to have experience. We don't want to just take someone fresh from college, fresh in their job, and plop them into these leadership roles for the association that they're just getting to know. But we also lose a lot of people when we have that step, you know, have those barriers and those opportunities, because, you know, it takes time. Our association is our annual meeting is a very long meeting. You know, it can be quite expensive as you're either fresh out of college, fresh on the job, coming to these meetings, between, you know, food, hotel, registration, that whatnot, because not everyone has the ability or funding, depending on your position within extension in your state, as to how much funding you have to offrate those costs. So really would like to take a hard look at that. And again, just really working with the members from the onset. I mean, we did, and we're doing a good job with the first timers at the meeting, but then it stops. We need to continue that mentoring. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. And we'll wrap up with Keith.
When I think about trying to reach new members, I know here in Arkansas, when I was a president, we went from 99 members to 129 members. And part of that was I reached out to individuals personally and talked to them about the benefits of membership. And of course, one thing that we always need to remember is we've got a lot of benefits with membership that come. One of the things that I always remind everyone is that if you give me $40 and I give you $1,000, would you make that trade? And that's one of the benefits that we have as an association. And I don't know of any other place that you can make that small of investment and get that larger return. So that is one thing that I encourage all my coworkers and friends to get involved in a scholarship and be able to use that opportunity to fund part of their educational career within their own roles in their own counties. The other thing is you have that opportunity that's been mentioned many times before to present posters and make presentations at a national level, which is very beneficial from a personal growth and professional growth. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Keith. We did receive a few questions in addition to the ones that we had for the candidates. So they have been plopped into the chat box. We will try to get through these as they came in. With the time, we don't have really a time limit, but an hour is usually a good Zoom limit for most of us that I've learned, but we'll see how this goes over the next few minutes. So the first question came from Amanda Bachman, and the question is, for the candidates, would you support NACA taking a critical look at policies and procedures and removing or amending those that are barriers to access for our members? And I think, you know, some of this has come out in our discussion already regarding, you know, having to attend so many, having so much experience before you can be a national candidate. So with that, that's kind of some clarification around that question. So I'll turn it over to Phil to answer that one first.
Okay. Amanda, of course, the answer is yes. We have to look at the policies and procedures and things that may exclude people. Let me give you one example. We have a policy that says if you do not stay at an MPIC selected hotel for the annual meeting, that you pay a $250 penalty fee. Well, let me just give you my experience. I attended my first MPIC with my family in, I think it was 1987. It was in New Jersey, and the kids were in diapers. Both kids were in diapers. They came to the annual meeting wearing their drink milk, T-shirts. My wife was there. We stayed with friends of my wife in the area. That's what enabled us to be there, is because we didn't have a lodging cost. The following year it was Seattle. My wife and I went out to Seattle, and we stayed with relatives of mine in Seattle so that we could afford to be there in Seattle and take part in the MPIC. The next year, I believe it was in Peoria. And if I've missed my years, please forgive me. In Peoria, we camped, and we stayed in a campground 20 miles, I think, from Peoria. But it was a blessing to be able to do that because of the low cost. And so, because of the low cost, we were able to go to those MPICs. I know we have to balance the need to pay our bills and meet our commitments. But I also believe that once we've met the commitment to have enough people in those hotels, that we certainly can open it up to those who want to stay somewhere else without a penalty. So that's one of those things that I'd look at and say, how can we change that so that we can encourage people to come so that they don't have that great cost barrier to coming to the annual meeting?
Okay, thank you, Phil. Matt, your response?
Of course, I think we always need to evaluate policies and see which ones have outlived their use. We here in Missouri have a good example of someone that was kind of denied the chance to be a national officer for a year or two. Farming Green served as treasurer. He was going to run for 1 year and learned that he didn't have enough years of attending AMPICs to be a candidate, and so had to wait until the next opportunity to be a candidate for treasurer. So I wouldn't want to say without some study that we can just eliminate all of those, but I think they deserve evaluation and why we have those policies, and if there's reasons that they could be at least modified or eliminated is certainly very reasonable.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. Connie?
Yes, absolutely. I would be in favor of taking a look at our policies and procedures and removing some of the barriers for leadership and other committee work. I've already suggested that earlier in today's talk, but it wouldn't be just, a group of people saying, well, let's just slash this, slash that. We would start by kind of taking a look at what other professional associations are doing for their members and kind of seeing their opportunities that they have for their members. And so that would be one way to take a look at it. But yes, I do believe that we need to take a hard look at removing that to allowing more of our members, because we keep saying, oh, it's a great way for leadership. But if that leadership can't start for 10 to 15 years, those are words that we just say to make ourselves happy.
Okay, thank you, Connie. And we'll wrap up with Keith.
Yes, all policies and procedures should be looked at to make sure that we don't have any barriers as far as cost or things that would prohibit any of our members from attending. I know, like I said earlier, I'm excited that this year's meeting is virtual because it is removing that cost barriers for all our members. And all our members, I would expect this to be the most attended national meeting that we've ever had, because I could go walk a rice field in the morning and then I could show up on my Zoom and be at the national meeting at the time that it started. So it's an opportunity for us, but we do need to look at our policies and procedures and make sure that we don't have any barriers to include any of our members. It's maybe a little bit overdue to look at these policies and procedures, but any of our members should reach out to leadership of their state and national and point out specific policies and procedures that they feel is specific that they would like for the board to look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Do have a few more questions. We'll try to, I think the questions from Stan and Henry, we will, some of that was already addressed, I believe, in your opening statements. We'll come back to those if we can, but we'll go to Richard's question. on strong state associations have an influence on the effectiveness of NACAA. How can NACAA help those state associations grow stronger? So Phil, do you want to take that one? You're muted, Phil. Unmute, Phil. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. You don't read lips. That's a critical question, especially in some regions of the country where some state associations don't even have a critical mass of people to maintain just the basic functions. I've spoken with leaders in states, and they've talked to me about this issue of not having enough members. And I think that we need to look at, first of all, what can we do to increase the number of members in every state? Because there are certainly eligible extension workers who are not members. And so helping them to understand the value of our association is critical. I wonder if we can get them involved in viewing some of the presentations done this AMPIC that are going to be online. People that are not members of our association to learn more about what the value of our association is. And then I think also we need to obviously look at how we can be more fluid maybe with those state associations. Can states combine their members in order to have an association? Can states work together to share responsibilities? I think that's critical things too. You know, it's important that as we have few, that we look to strengthen those states and to assist them in every way we can. I'm sure that states in the West, states in the Northeast would love to be able to do more, but having few members, it's difficult to do. So I would encourage our association to help with mentoring. If you recall back in South Dakota, when we had the anniversary meeting there, the 100th anniversary meeting in South Dakota, we had actually a mentorship program with new members that were there. I'd like to see that continue. How can we get people involved, and how can we encourage new members in states to be agents in states to become members? Those are critical aspects of this.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Looking at the chat box, also Cynthia's asked us kind of a similar question in conjunction with the state associations, and Phil, you covered it, but I think for the candidates to follow, you know, some of the ways you can add this to that question, some of the ways your fellow members, what they could do to welcome and get new members involved in the state and national. So Phil, you answered that as part of your answer as well, but I'll just preface that for Matt, Connie, and Keith as well. We can cover both of those questions. So Matt, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Jerry. I think it's all about what does the membership offer, or the association offer our members. And I know back in 2015, we had our spring winter board meeting in California and tried to see if we could get California to be become a part of the association. They just weren't interested because their agents were at a different point, and our association didn't meet their needs. So in my mind, it's all about the association meeting the needs of the potential members. And I think we do for most states, and that's what needs to be sold. I think we, as a board, needs to work with the leadership in that state. I think Phil outlined some great opportunities there. There may be opportunities in some states to combine with other states, but maybe there's members there, potential members, that we just need to explain and help them understand all that we have to offer. I think in many cases, I think a lot of folks just don't realize what the association has to offer future members.
Thank you, Matt. Connie?
I think a part of what we would need to do is have a strong year-round program supported by NACAA, which would help excite folks within the states. You know, having the big focus on just the AMPIC, if people can't make it or choose, you know, if they can't come for dates, if it's over their county fair, you know, if they have personal obligations, or they just frankly don't want to go to wherever it's being held at, you know, you might have membership that chooses not to be active both on the state and national level, but really keeping those ideas flowing. So again, having something monthly or throughout the year really sparks that interest, really getting input from members of what they'd like to see. But again, really to try to strengthen members, I think that national mentoring program would really help, because that would encourage those younger new members to stay focused and to stay interested within the association and really kind of see the value of it. I mean, we know, otherwise we wouldn't keep coming back to it. We come for the network of people, our friends, the programming that we all can use no matter where you're at, across the nation, for in-person programming or virtual programming. Some of us are able to get content. Some of us that are specialized don't come to the AMPIC just for the content, because it might not be 100% pertinent of what we do, but we come for the other parts of our job and just that social outlet to kind of see the group of people that are working through the issues that we have across the nation. So again, that mentoring program would help with some of that.
All right, thank you, Connie. And Keith, your response?
Working with state associations to encourage better leadership and welcome new members is a challenge that is foregoing. It's always been a challenge and always will be a challenge. We need to make sure that all the states know the benefits of the association. We also need to know the state leadership within Extension knows the benefits of the association. Our administration in Arkansas is very supportive of the County Agents Association, both at the state and national level, but every state may not have that buy-in from their administration, and we need to make sure that the administration and the state presidents are committed to our association, and that we're able to recruit and keep new members by these types of programs, making sure that we have something that is good for each member, removing some of those cost barriers, those time barriers that I've talked about before. Thanks.
Thank you, Keith. We will do one last question, and then we will move into our 1-minute wrap up. So we will do this last question from Donna about, kind of a restructuring of the regions, and restructuring from the larger southern regions to some of the regions with smaller numbers. But just a quick response on how we're currently structured.
Okay.
Phil, you could start with that one. Apologize.
Great. I think it's something to take a look at. I think it's something that obviously no one wants to force a change on any state to say, oh, you're no longer in the southern region, you're now in the western region, or you're no longer in the southern region, you're in the northeast region. But I think as we look at that, we also need to go back to the situation in states with small numbers of members and say, how can we strengthen those states? Because really, just changing regional lines does not support and does not increase the number of members in any small state. We really need to work on membership in those states and working together cross state lines to help each other out and to encourage one another. So sure, I think we could take a look at the regional boundaries, but I think it's much broader than that to help states become stronger in themselves.
Thank you, Phil. Matt?
I guess if we want to look at that, we certainly can. I would probably need to know a little bit of the history of how the regions were established to start with, and I don't know that history. Obviously, the South has the greatest numbers of members of our regions, but there are probably a number of other factors that play into this. So I'd like to probably see some arguments for restructuring before we would take it up, but also to understand that history of how they were established in the first place so that we can better understand why we would want to make any changes. That's my thought.
Right. Thank you, Matt. Connie?
I think before we look at just making, taking the southern region or any region or changing up any of the region demographics, I think we need to take a hard look. Do we even need the regions? Do we need that set up as so much as what we do statewide and national basis? could we have an association where we would still have, let's say, the 4-member aspect, but for certain things, but could we just take the best of our people instead of having one per each region? I mean, we have different issues where we have sometimes some regions don't even, it's a struggle to find people to fulfill the different leadership opportunities. So are we really doing a favor by begging and pleading to have someone fill in that spot or take on that leadership if they're not really comfortable or not truly wanting to do it? Could we open it up and have it to the entire membership? So I think, Matt's right. We have to really kind of go back and really relook and review as to why and how it's set up and if it's still effective or our best option for today.
Okay, thank you, Connie. And then Keith, we'll wrap up with you.
Regional lines has been drawn in the past, and I have no idea why. I'm going to kind of shadow or say pretty much what the other candidates have said on this. I would have to look into the history of why they're drawn up the way they are and what needs to be changed. I don't know that changing regions would be the answer, but would be willing to look at that from a perspective and see what was best for the association.
Thank you, Keith. And thanks everyone who submitted those questions. That helped us get a little more breadth and depth of the candidates. So we really appreciate that. We'll give each candidate a final 1-minute wrap up on any final thoughts and comments, and then I will finish up with a couple of, I think Mike Reeves has a couple announcements, and then I'll wrap up with one as well. So Phil.
Thanks. And thanks all for joining us today, taking your time to listen to this. It's been great to visit with you this way. When my friends in Michigan approached me and asked me to consider running for NACAA Vice President, I considered not only what an honor it would be, but what a responsibility it would be. The reality is, there's much work ahead. I recognize, though, that I am not where I am in my career through my efforts alone. Many have had an impact and an influence on me. Many invested their time in ways that benefited me. I look forward to giving back to this association by providing opportunities and help to others to advance and to learn. This is an association made up of talented, committed professionals, you all included. We do our jobs because of passion for those with whom we work. I want to lead NACA members for even greater impact in their communities. Let's work together to build a stronger future. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. We'll move on to Matt.
Well, I too appreciate the opportunity to be a candidate for Vice President of NACAA. I really believe that NACAA is the premier extension association serving the members who serve the #1 industry in the United States, and that's agriculture. I guess I like to think that this is not about me. My candidacy is not about me. It's about what the association needs in terms of leadership to make it better for its membership. I look forward to the chance to serve and appreciate this opportunity to share some of my thoughts today.
Thank you, Matt. Connie?
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to serve as your national secretary for a year. I'm looking forward to the future. Part of what I do is I'm a dreamer, I'm a forward thinker, I'm positive, but I'm very sincere in what I do. I fight for what I believe in, and I like to really be that encourager for all. With NACAA, I really believe you get what you put in, you get what you put into. So like, in order to have change or want change, I need to take on that ability and be able to fight for some of that. And I really believe that dreams are the seeds for the future. So, with that, I just look forward to your bid as secretary for NACAA for the coming year.
Okay, thank you, Connie. And Keith?
I would like to thank everyone for the opportunity to speak to you today. I hope that we've answered some of your questions that you may have, but always remember that we're available to answer any questions and committed to work for you. We're committed to make the association the best for each and every one of our members. Anytime that you specifically have any questions for me, feel free to reach out to me and I'll be willing to answer those questions. I would like to say that the NACAA to me has been really important. It's built some family memories for me, but it's also been able to allow me to network throughout the nation and meet some very professional people that I would have never had the opportunity to meet if it hadn't been for the association bringing us together. I'm looking forward to our virtual meeting this year and looking forward to having the largest attended meeting that has ever been. Even though we won't be there in person, we can still gain that networking and still have the opportunity to do our presentations and posters at a national level. Thank you again. I'm Keith Perkins and would like to be your next treasurer for the NACAA.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Yeah, and I think we're all anxious, nervous, excited to try this virtual national meeting and see how it goes. It's going to be a great experience. So to wrap up, I'll ask Mike Reeves to come on. He's our Southern Region Director, one of our Southern Region Directors. As this isn't voted on by the membership, but as vice directors come on board, or as directors go off and vice directors get elected on by their regions, the Southern and Western regions will be electing some regional vice directors this year. So Mike has some announcements to make too.
Okay, I just want to introduce somebody, and but before I do that, I just want to say that I've enjoyed my time as a regional director, and I'll echo what Keith just said about being able to meet a lot of people and learn from them, and it's just been an awesome experience. But as you know, in Southern Region, the regional director position rotates from state to state, and this year, South Carolina will put somebody forward, and I'm happy to introduce Brian Beer. I think Brian's on. He's an area livestock agent in South Carolina. He's been state president, national committee member, and a distinguished service award winner. And Brian, congratulations by being selected by your peers to serve on the board, and you'll be coming up as a nominee in our regional meeting. And just wanted to see if Brian, you don't have to say anything if you don't want to, but just wanted to recognize you and thank you for your willingness to serve. And I promise you'll get a whole lot out of this. And I've been amazed at how much I've benefited from being able to serve.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I appreciate it, and I am looking forward to it, and honored and humbled to be able to represent South Carolina on the as a region in the Southern region. So I am looking forward to it as well, Mike.
Okay, thank you, Brian, and we look forward to you coming on board after the September meeting. With that, just the last couple of reminders that we have the 4 candidates today. That doesn't mean we're done. We can take those applications for some of the those officer positions. For vice president, for what Phil and Matt are applying for, that is a North Central region appointment. For secretary and treasurer, that can come from any of the regions around the country. So again, you can, if there's others that you feel want to step up into those national roles, please feel free. We did this as a way to provide an opportunity for those to learn from the current candidates and to get their views and express their opinions on the association and how they would lead us forward. The last thing I'll leave you with is for any state delegates out there or any state representatives, please go back to your states, and we need those delegate representatives. I believe they go to Connie soon, so we can get ballots out and those kind of things in a timely manner. So if you haven't got your sent your delegate, who those delegates are for the annual meeting to Connie, try to get those in as soon as you can, or as soon as you know who your delegates are. With that, I'm going to wrap it up. I appreciate everyone for coming in. I thank David, Scott, Stuart, and Mike for co-hosting today and helping us with organizing this today. And I really want to send a shout out to Lissa and Katie from Wisconsin, who kind of work behind the scenes with the chat box and the waiting room and all that kind of stuff that goes with Zoom. I don't think I ended up with too much egg on our faces as regional directors. Hope this went well. You found it valuable, got some good information about the candidates, and hopefully you found it worth your time to participate today. Again, I thank you and have a good rest of your day.